Hey my dudes, Drunk the Bro here. So I've got a really depressing video for you, and it's kinda sort of the sequel to the last Doomer YouTube video I made about 6 months ago. In that last YouTube video I made a lot of predictions about the state of Elden Ring PVP and Souls PVP and how things are gonna go, and most of my predictions were not good. And a good number of them came true, unfortunately, so that's why we're here talking about this today. Has FromSoftware caused a Souls PvP apocalypse? The unfortunate answer to that question is probably. You see, Souls PvP is at the lowest, most pathetic, most saddest state it's ever been in. And it's funny, because that's the same thing I said the last time I made a YouTube video about this subject. And it's even worse now, to a noticeable degree. So we just need to talk about this. We need to evaluate the situation and talk about what may be coming in the future, if anything at all, if Souls PvP is even going to be around. Well, first things first, why is the Souls PvP community in such a sorry state? Who's shitting in our cereal? The answer is FromSoftware. You see, the most modern, up-to-date PvP game we have is Elden Ring. Sounds fine on the surface level. If you look a little deeper, Elden Ring's PvP just is not as good as pretty much any of the other games in the series. All the Dark Souls games had much more fleshed out PvP than Elden Ring. It is quite literally half-assed. Now, don't misunderstand me. Elden Ring PvP is fun. There's a lot of fun to be had here. It's just not quite as good as the other games. Now, this caused sort of a schism in the community when Elden Ring released. See, a lot of people that played PvP in the older games decided not to play Elden Ring because they didn't like it as much. They felt like it was a downgrade, justifiably so. And those of us that saw the fun in Elden Ring and decided to continue playing it anyway, well, we've been forced to play this game for almost 4 years now with very little support from FromSoftware, and what support there has been pretty lackluster. Unfortunately, that makes you tired after a while. A lot of us are disgruntled and dispassionate and just worn out. Now I know what you're thinking. We played Dark Souls 3 for 6 years while we waited for Elden Ring to come out. And yeah, but Dark Souls 3 had a lot of longevity that Elden Ring simply doesn't have. It had a lot of features that Elden Ring doesn't have that added to that longevity, such as 6-player limit, covenants, rewards for PvP, overall better balancing, and a better invasion system. I'm just not convinced that Elden Ring has the same kind of lifespan as Dark Souls 3 did. Also, there's a bunch of glaring issues with Elden Ring PvP that weren't necessarily an issue with any of the other Souls games, such as the constant, unrelenting anime spam that kind of makes 30% of invasions unplayable. It's really unfortunate, especially because it got worse with the Shadow of the Turd Tree. Yeah, they added even more stupid anime shit to this game to make it even worse. Whether intentional or not, that's what happened. Also, the invasion spawns are very bad, and the constant fog wall issue is probably one of the biggest reasons that invaders quit. 50% of invasions are instant fog walls at high level. That's unbelievable for a AAA game in 2025, isn't it? There's a lot more I could say here. I don't think I need to. I think I've made my point. You're probably playing the game as we speak, right? The thing is, Elden Ring just doesn't have that longevity, and people are getting very fatigued. Some people have quit entirely, some people are taking breaks, and granted, there are a lot of people still playing Elden Ring PvP, but the level of fatigue is concerning. I'm not sure how much longer the community is going to be able to go with this game. This is the situation we're in right now. We've all been playing this incredibly divisive game for 3-4 years now, probably closer to 4 years now. We're all very tired. We want something new. We need something new. What does FromSoftware do? Do they make us a new game with some kind of PvP elements? No, they made Night Rain, the super casual friendly, boss rush, kinda sorta roguelike, kinda sorta Souls game. It's weird, but it doesn't have PvP. Night Rain's a decent game, I got about 30 hours of fun out of it before I started to get sick of it. Now I can only play it for a couple hours at a time before I start to get annoyed with it. It's a decent game, it's good filler. Is it a Souls game? Not really. Is it up to the same standards as the games we're used to? I don't really think so. I feel like it's mostly filler, and something else to play if you want to change. It's also very casual friendly. That's part of the problem with it, actually. This game has had drastic consequences for the PvP community. Us PvP enjoyers have been playing Elden Ring for quite a long time, waiting for something new. Instead of FromSoftware allocating their development resources to another expansion for Elden Ring, or just another game with PvP in general, they made Night Rain and pretty much completely left us out of the fun. There is no PvP in Night Rain, so most PvPers aren't finding too much fun in it, although some are, most don't seem to be. But more importantly, Night Rain has taken so many casual eyeballs away from Elden Ring and PvP as a whole. There's less people playing through Elden Ring, so there's a lot less people to invade. Many of us are also very worried that Night Rain is an attempt by FromSoftware to normalize not having PvP in their games. Maybe they're testing the waters to get rid of invasions because casuals and PvEers have been bitching and moaning and pissing and shitting about invasions in these games since the beginning of the series, and they might have finally caved to the brain-dead masses that want easier experiences with little adversity. I think you get the point. Night Rain overall was a net negative for the PvP community. It severely weakened our situation and made us all feel very hopeless. But then came a glimmer of hope in Duskbloods. Duskbloods was recently announced by FromSoftware. It is definitely not Bloodborne 2. But more importantly, it is multiplayer focused, PvP focused. A lot of us get excited and think, whoa, this is the PvP focused game we've always asked for. But there is some major caveats here that make it kinda bad actually. Multiplayer Bloodborne 2 sounds awesome on the surface level. Problem is, it's Nintendo exclusive. You can only play Duskbloods on Nintendo Switch 2. Here's the problem. This is a fucking disaster because Nintendo Switch 2's asking price is $500 fucking dollars. The game itself is going to be $80 plus accessories. You're going to be paying like $600 or $700 just to play Duskbloods. That is insane in this economy. The average person is just not going to be able to afford that. Unfortunately, that's how it is. I've been stressing about how I'm going to be able to afford a Nintendo Switch 2 myself. At this point, I just don't know. I kinda need to play the game because of my YouTube channel. I just don't know if I'm gonna be able to. I'll try my best. But there is another issue in that most FromSoftware fans are PlayStation people. You know, FromSoftware has always been very, very close with Sony. If there is an exclusive, it's always PlayStation. So why did they go with Nintendo this time? It seems like an odd decision, doesn't it? I think this is FromSoftware's way of getting back at Sony for not letting them make Bloodborne 2. I'm pretty sure Sony's been the one that's blocking that from happening this entire time, although I'm not entirely sure. Anyways, FromSoftware goes to Nintendo and makes kind of Bloodborne 2, Duskbloods, and in the process they fuck over the entire fandom because again, the vast majority of us stick with PlayStation because that's always been the safest way to play FromSoftware exclusives, at least up until now. For these reasons, Duskbloods is not going to be our savior either. The vast majority of Souls fans just probably aren't going to play it, whether they don't have the economic means to play the game or they just don't see it as worth it. And here's something that makes matters even worse. There's a conspiracy theory I kind of formulated in my head. Well, Duskbloods is probably not going to sell very well because of the exclusivity. Instead of FromSoftware accepting responsibility for this and understanding that the exclusivity was a bad idea, they're going to blame it on the fact that the game is PvP focused, and that's going to contribute to their justification of getting rid of PvP. I hope I'm wrong about that, but I kind of feel like that's the case. Unfortunately, the PvP community's situation is extremely bleak. Duskbloods is going to come out in about a year. That means it'll be another year after Duskbloods releases before FromSoftware even thinks about releasing another game because game developers don't like to compete with their own releases, right? So we're pretty much stuck playing Elden Ring for at least bare minimum another 2 years, the incredibly divisive game that most people are kind of fatigued with. I just don't know if the PvP community can make it through that. We've got nothing to look forward to. Tarnished Edition? That's pretty much it. That's why I'm calling this the Souls PvP apocalypse. Whether this is truly the end of Souls PvP or more of a Ragnarok situation is up for debate. The Souls PvP community has always been very dedicated and loyal. We've made it through some pretty bad times. Granted, this is the worst time ever, so it's a lot more sketchy now, but we've made through some pretty difficult times as a community. I think it's largely going to depend on what FromSoftware's next project is after Duskbloods. If it's a real Souls game with PvP, we might persevere. If it's some bullshit Armored Core Super Soaker Laser Guns game, probably not. It's probably done. I think it would be truly tragic if Souls game PvP faded away. There's nothing quite like it in all of gaming. Nothing quite this exhilarating. That's why it's always had such a loyal community. And I think it would be terrible to live without Souls game PvP, personally. So let's try to persevere. Let's try to make it through this very dark time. No matter how hopeless things might seem, just remember this game still has a lot of fun to offer, even after all this time. So if you gotta take some breaks or play some other games, fair enough. Just don't forget about this game and Souls PvP. I don't know. That's the best advice I can give you. Let me know what you think about all this doomerism in the comments. Be sure to like and subscribe if you're cool, and dislike if you dislike it, and all that shit. Also, if you would like to help me keep this shitty channel afloat during these difficult times, you can support me on the Buy Me a Coffee. I will link that below. Or don't. That's fair enough, too. Have a good rest of your life.